You're listening to the Modern Mainframe, BMC's intelligent Z optimization and transformation podcast, covering the latest trends and issues on the mainframe and how BMC AIME and BMC CompuWare Solutions can help you build a mainframe-inclusive DevOps toolchain. Hi there. Welcome to the Modern Mainframe. I'm Matt Dallaire. We're back with part 2 of our conversation on the importance of the developer experience with our guests, BMC Director of Software Consulting Elizabeth Maxwell, DevOps Architect and Evangelist Tony Anter, and Senior Product Manager Mark Schettenhelm. Elizabeth, Mark, Tony, thanks again for being here.
Hi there. Good to be here again. Good to have a chat.
Hi, Matt. Great to be here.
There was a lively discussion in the first part of our conversation about the developer experience, how developing on the mainframe is really the same as working on any other platform, and how using familiar preferred tools helps developers to be more creative and efficient. Today, we'll be discussing some of those tools and how they can benefit both new and veteran developers. Recently, BMC has added new integrations and tools that further enable developers to work with tools of their choice, like pairing BMC CompuWare ISPW with Git and the new BMC AIME DevX Workbench for VS Code, which gives developers the ability to use the very popular Microsoft Visual Studio Code to easily access mainframe resources to quickly code, compile, and debug applications. In a recent IDC survey, organizations listed some of the difficulties they find, including that team members with mainframe skill sets are retiring, it can be challenging to recruit new team members to replace them, and collaboration and communication between mainframe and distributed teams can be difficult. Tony, how do these tools help remedy some of those situations?
Well, giving people the tools that they want to use and giving especially younger, newer developers on the platform or off the tools that they were trained on just makes that a better experience, makes it easier to bring those people in. If to Elizabeth's point earlier, if I'm brand new to engineering just out of school and they want me to come in and replace, and then they're throwing an ISPF screen in front of me and all of these very mainframe specific things, that's extra baggage I have to learn to now come up to speed. Whereas if I'm using Git and I'm using Visual Studio Code and I'm using the tools and capabilities that I'm used to using and the process I'm used to using, then really the only thing I have to learn is the nuances of the business and maybe COBOL. But again, that's a learning COBOL is just another language. The same as if I have to teach myself Python or teach myself Kotlin or learn how to do a certain scripting, right? It just makes it easier to replace those people by having that standard set of applications that people can use and or the applications that they want to use.
And these are really powerful tools, aren't they? This is about productivity. This is at the heart of what we're looking at here, and those impacts on the business. They're hugely powerful. Why wouldn't we use them? But, why would we use something else which is much more labor intensive? It would be crazy. It wouldn't make sense. So embracing that allows us to make those people who maybe need to learn that new language, COBOL or PL1 or wherever it may be, much more productive and much more able to deliver to the business much faster. In fact, I think there was we did some discussions with some customers around this. And we looked at, that onboarding side of things and how that could be shortened to make someone productive. And it was significant. Almost unbelievable figures, somewhere in the region of 50%, 6 months to 3 months, where they could start delivering functionality for the business, which is astonishing. Why wouldn't you have some of that if you could?
And that goes hand in hand with the efficiency that we were just discussing with not moving off the mainframe. You have the equity built into the mainframe. Now you can make the platform more efficient.
And that kind of goes back to something that BMC is saying into the market. It's the essence of that run and reinvent. You want to be innovating, moving forward, and you want to be doing it at pace.
Right.
And I think that's a really good summary of that run and reinvent is what I imagine in my mind when I'm talking about or thinking about modernizing the developer experience and providing them all the wonderful tools, all the modern tools that really help them, that are so powerful to get that job done, to deliver functionality faster out into the market that we demand, as human beings,
So we've talked about how these processes and tools can help attract new talent, get them up to speed faster, increase productivity. What we shouldn't overlook, though, is how they affect veteran developers. So how is this new approach making positive changes to their careers? Mark?
Well, I mean, as far as a positive approach to your career, it goes back to some of the things we're talking about is making things exciting, making things different, having the pride in being able to produce more, learning new things. It makes a difference there, and it really advances you within the organization. So if you adopt these new tools, you're going to be seen as someone who's really advancing the organization and your own career, as opposed to someone who isn't and stuck with old methods.
And how much time are you wasting playing the English on dealing with old tools, on dealing with old processes, on waiting for things to get done? How much more effective can you be? You're already an SME on the application, on the business logic, on the platform. Now, tie that with being able to use tooling that allows you to work more efficiently. Go back to that old saying, work smarter, not harder. How much extra time in your career is that going to give you? Right. I think a lot of the veteran guys don't want to make changes, or, hey, I know what I'm doing. I'm super fast. I'm whatever. But how much faster could you be if you eliminate some of that workaround you have to do to be faster by using modern tooling? That was one of the things that a lot of guys that I talked to, once they saw that, then the sky was the limit.
And I had an example of that. Actually, I ran a performance team for a number of years, and we were using one of our own tools to do these performance measurements on customer system and give them feedback. And we used to just have a green screen interface, and if you knew it, it was fine. You could get through it. But we modernized it with an Eclipse-based interface, and we added all sorts of analytics and help facilities and things that collapsed up and down, and really made navigation of these performance profiles much easier. And I had a guy on my team, and he was 60 when we brought out this interface. So he'd been working with this tool for decades, and I was thinking, oh, this is going to be hard work. He's going to say, oh, I want to see my green screen and everything else. Well, this guy took this new modern interface, and within a day, once he understood it and he started using it, he never looked back. And he said, why didn't we have this years ago? It would have made my life so much easier. And I just loved that. And I think it was like another 10 years, before he even mentioned the green screen. And we used to look at it, and he was like, did I really read that? I guess it's like looking at a dump or something. He's like, did I really read that? And he just moved on so fast because he could see the benefit to him. And it allowed him to spend less time trying to analyze something and more time applying his own, intellectual property into that and doing more analysis rather than trying to wade through all this data. He could think more about the things that really mattered. In terms of suggesting improvements back to our customers. It was just an amazing transformation. It was just funny that he looked at me and said, why didn't we have this years ago? This is great.
Well, I'll just throw this out there for anybody who'd like to comment, but I've also heard in the past how it helps a lot with newer developers to have mentor programs or to have them paired with veteran developers to help learn, not only the tools, but business practices and how things are handled. With these new tools and veteran developers, that mentorship can kind of go both ways now. The people who are more experienced with, say, VS Code can give tips and tricks to the developers who aren't.
No, that's a great thing, and I've seen it when people are moving to Eclipse, where someone was adept to it, and then they would go and show all the tips to get someone who's used to the green screen into it. And I see that same thing happening with VS Code. And that's a great point, that mentorship goes both ways. It's the person who understands the skill mentors the other. It's not how many years of experience you've had in the industry. It's what you know about that particular tool or technique puts you into that mentor role. Everybody can be a mentor.
Yeah, that's a fantastic way of looking at it, is because there is now the ability to learn and interact both ways. And I think the idea of having that kind of mentor program where the SME is teaching the younger developer about the application and just general practices, but then they're learning from the younger developer some of the tips and tricks that you can do with the newer tools and automation. And I think that's a fantastic way of looking at it.
It brings a new energy and a reinvigoration, doesn't it, into the platform, which is just amazing. I love it.
So earlier I mentioned a new tool, BMC AMI DevX Workbench for VS Code. Mark, can you get a little bit more in depth on this new tool and what's coming?
Sure, Matt. It's really exciting, and it really goes with everything we've spoken about in this podcast, where we had the green screen, and then we moved to Eclipse as the new interface. And so we've developed Topaz for all of our products. And the unseen thing are like the APIs and webhooks that we've developed primarily for ISPW, but we're seeing that for other products like Avendane. So as part of this continual evolution, we're rolling out things in VS Code. So that was started with ISPW. We now have Expediter interface in VS Code. We'll be developing more on that. We'll also be coming out with more for ISPW. FileAid is coming. So you're going to see those same things that you've had all along in the green screen and then with Eclipse, but you'll have that in VS Code to give that freedom of choice and the productivity, and to make it so that if someone's used to working in VS Code, they can come right over to the mainframe and benefit from these great BMC products and get the productivity, but they don't have to learn a different interface. And it'll be a very comfortable experience for them.
I think the key thing here is we are not standing still. We're on the move. We're looking at the next horizon. We're always taking a temperature check on what's happening in the market, what developers are using, and we'll continue to do that. We're not in a time capsule. We're continually going forward, and that's really exciting as a technologist.
Right. And we really want to be slightly ahead of our customers. We want to make sure that the trend is real, which it is. And then we want to have it available for you when you're ready to adopt it.
Well, it looks like we're just about out of time. Elizabeth, Mark, Tony, thanks again for joining us today.
Thank you, Matt. Always a pleasure.
Thanks for having us.
I'll include links in the show notes to the IDC report I mentioned, more information on BMC AMI DevX Workbench for VS Code, and of course, part 1 of our conversation. If you haven't yet, you really should check that out. Thank you for listening today, and we'll talk to you next time on the Modern Mainframe. You're listening to the Modern Mainframe, BMC's intelligent Z optimization and transformation podcast, covering the latest trends and issues on the mainframe and how BMC AMI and BMC Compuware Solutions can help you build a mainframe-inclusive DevOps toolchain.